And welcome everyone to Sports Shorts presented by LeBears Casino in Baton Rouge. I'm Ronnie Rance. For the next hour, we got a great show for you. Our first half hour, our guest is former LSU Tiger pitcher, longtime college baseball assistant coach Sean Teague. And then the second half hour, we'll be joined by WAFB's Jacques Doucet. And Sean, how are you, man?
Doing well, man. I love this time of year.
That's what I'm telling you. You know, a lot of folks are more March Madness basketball oriented. I know you and I, being baseball guys, particularly college baseball guys, this truly is my favorite, time when it comes to sports with the selection show on the Monday before the regionals. You got the regionals, which are exciting, the super regionals, and of course the College World Series. Now, I do have to be honest. When LSU's not in the College World Series, I'm not as geeked up about it. I'm not watching every single game. I'm more a highlight guy. If I do have some free time, I'll watch the entire game. But I think the first weekend for me when LSU's not in the College World Series, it's a little bit like getting over a death in the family, a distant relative.
Yeah.
You have that initial a little bit of depression, and eventually you move on and you start saying things like they're in a better place. Well, I'm not going to say that LSU baseball's at a better place because they're not in the College World Series, but the first weekend is the mourning phase. And then I think as we get towards the middle of the week or the second week of the College World Series, all right, now I'm used to them not being there and I can enjoy it a little bit. But the first week, it's all about, man, 4 SEC teams, no LSU. There's that bitterness there.
And I think that feeling is amplified when you believe that LSU should have been there, at least on paper. Right. They were favored, obviously, to win the Super Regional and be in Omaha. And that's probably what stings the most is the fact that they are not there at this time.
Yeah.
When they should have been.
So before we go forward, let's go backwards. And, early February, LSU was preseason number 1, number 2 in the country. Paul Mainieri was not hiding behind those rankings. He was very outspoken about, we got a really good team and it's Omaha or bust. And so based on those two things, number 1, number 2 preseason rankings, and their head coach even saying that, then you have to look at the season as a bust. Is that fair?
I think it's fair because the program was established in the 90s with Coach Burtman as that being the expectation, the level of expectation being Omaha or bust. So I don't feel like that is any sort of over-expectation. I think that is the expectation that Coach Mainieri has, Coach Kane has, all the coaches have on the staff, and the players as well. They want to come to LSU to play in Omaha, and that is the expectation, the level we should expect.
From Coach Mainieri's perspective, obviously they have very many reasons for why the season wasn't as successful. Their starting rotation was a disaster the entire year, and I will say that you started out in February with Zach Hess as your ace. We know a month and a half in that didn't work out, and he went to the bullpen for the rest of the season. We know, or we're in a little more than a month and a half. We know that Landon Marceau, that was a roller coaster year for him, whether it was performance, physically, but then towards the end he started to figure some things out. But by no means was he an ace. He probably should have been a number 3 starter, and you'd have been really happy with him as a number 3 starter the whole year. But he got forced to be the number 2, didn't really live up to that expectation except for a couple of shining moments. Your number 3 starter was Jaden Hill, who had been healthy, would have probably been your ace, but he only made 2 starts, showed you flashes, and never was heard from again. Cole Henry developed a few weeks in, and then he disappears like a comet. You never knew when he was going to pitch or come around. There was just a lot going on that, yes, you do have some reason for why they fell to 13th seed versus a number 1 or number 2 seed, but nonetheless, with the number 1 recruiting class and all, I still think they feel like they should be in Omaha.
Absolutely. And look, I'm going to speak to pitching only, and when your pitching doesn't mesh up the way you think it should and the way it should play out, and you look at we'll talk about Omaha in just a little bit, the dominant pitching performances we've had in Omaha so far, and there have been a few. The ERA is the second highest in the Mainieri era. Last year was the highest. Most walks in the Mainieri era this year. And last year 2017 was the only other year they had more walks, and that was the year they went to Omaha, so they played more games. So 268 walks, ERA of 4.64. The numbers don't tell you everything, but they certainly don't lie. They tell you who you are, and those two things were big factors.
Well, and the thing is, those numbers are better now than they were a month ago. The pitching actually got better as the season wore on. It gives you an idea of their ERA as a staff was over 5 for the majority of the year. It wasn't until really May that things got into the 4s. So you see the struggles that they had. Now, I will commend them that they definitely turned a corner on some things, particularly the bullpen. I think once they put Zach Hess in the bullpen, it gave them another arm. It probably pushed the guys like Fontenot and Peterson and others to do better because they knew, hey, my innings are going to get cut into.
Sure, and we've known at this point in the season being over with, that Zach Hess is going to be a reliever in pro ball. That's probably going to be his role. It's hard to force two freshmen, as talented as they are in Henry and Marceau. It's tough to force freshmen into a starting role. Not that they can't do it, but you look at the kid from Louisville who just pitched the other night against Vanderbilt, Detmers. Struggled a little bit in Omaha. The stage was really, really big. There's something to be said for having those experiences before as an older pitcher as opposed to a freshman.
You're a guy who played for Coach Bertman, was on the 93 National Championship team, and then spent time as a pitching coach, as a GA at Georgia, and then as a head pitching coach at Georgia Southern and Tulane. As a pitching coach perspective, when you watched this team, I'm sure there were things you're like, man, I wish I could get in there and do X, Y, or Z. What were some obvious things that jumped out to you that you thought, this could be fixable this year, not in the offseason?
Well, one thing, particularly as freshmen, and Cole Henry came in pretty well polished. I mean, you don't have many freshmen that come in with 3 to 4 pitches, 4-seam, 2-seam, breaking ball, and a changeup. Now, that changeup is one of the last things you kind of learn as you get into college. Most kids in high school don't throw a changeup. It usually helps the other team in a lot of cases by speeding up their bat a little bit. But I think learning that third or fourth pitch, guys like Devin Fontenot, guys like Trent Vittmeyer, who did not have that third pitch they could really go to. That's one thing I know in the offseason Coach Dunn is probably going to focus on, and those guys playing summer ball are really going to focus on. Secondly, one thing that really hurt LSU this year was the running game. I mean, we had the most stolen bases given up in a long time by LSU, and only one pickoff. Now, pickoffs aren't by themselves a sole indication of the running game.
Right.
Arkansas only had 5 or 6 pickoffs all year, and they're in Omaha. But combined with the number of stolen bases and the fact there's only one pickoff, 92 stolen bases against LSU, those things factored in with the walks, too, compounded LSU into not having the season we're expecting.
You mentioned the pickoffs. To put that in comparison, Florida State had 12. LSU had 1. And again, it kind of goes to your point. If you're not going to be good at throwing out runners, you better be good at holding runners. And one of the ways you can hold runners is be very good at pickoffs, pickoff plays, having the catcher throw behind, whether it's first, second, or third, being creative with your pickoff plays to try to steal an out here or there. No doubt that's a telling statistic in that it was just so easy for teams to get on base via the hit batter, via the walk. Then once they got on base, it was too easy to get into scoring position. I mean, look at the way they were eliminated this year against Florida State. They allowed a runner to get the scoring position with 2 outs on a pass ball. It was ruled, I think, a wild pitch, which is ridiculous because the ball literally hit in the middle of the catcher's glove. And granted, he had to reach out to the left. It had some tail on it. But anytime the ball hits you dead square in the middle of the glove, shouldn't be ruled a wild pitch.
And as a pitching coach, I'm going to say that's a pass ball every time, not a wild pitch.
Right.
From a statistical standpoint.
And look, I know it's not easy. I mean, Fontenot's got tremendous arm side run with that 2-seam, but at the same time, you called the pitch, you know what's coming. Yeah, that's where you got to be prepared. It wasn't like they got crossed up. This LSU team, preseason ranked number 1 and number 2. At what point did you realize in the season, they're a little bit in trouble? What stood out as trouble, problem?
That's a great question. I think the Texas series, the series we went to UT, both were on a roll. Both teams were on a roll, and LSU just could not close the door, particularly late. And Game 3 to me wasn't the telltale for the entire season, but when you had no lefties out of the pen that could put some of these pinch hitters out of the way, that lefties that were brought off the bench by UT by Coach Pierce. And, of course, in the end, Coach Todd Peterson gave up that hit to win the game for UT and lose it for LSU. That was when kind of the lefty sort of issue reared its ugly head for me. Too many walks, obviously, the entire series. That was kind of the series where I thought, man, this could go a little bit south if we don't correct it right away. LSU doesn't correct it right away.
Explain. So, by the way, Texas didn't make a regional.
No.
They were really good for the first month and a half, and then things just tanked for them.
One of 2 teams, Washington and Texas, that were in Omaha last year and didn't make a regional this year. That's surprising.
And there were a lot of firsts. Cal State Fullerton did not make a regional for the first time in like 30 years. Florida State was one of the last 4 in. Along with Michigan. Both of them are in the College World Series. There was a lot more parity. I know we've been talking a lot about parity the last 10 years since the rule changes came down in 2009, limitations on roster and scholarship and whatnot. But I think this was I mean, I guess you could say when Stony Brook gets to the College World Series or Coastal Carolina wins it, that was probably the whole parity thing the most. But this is true. You always saw a shining star. In Arizona wins the national championship a few years back, and they were a 3 or 4 seed in a regional. We've got 2, 3 seeds in regionals that barely got in. That in Michigan and Florida State, they're in the College World Series. But I just feel like across the board, I mean, look at all the struggles that LSU has midweek. Other schools had struggles midweek. Florida State had struggles. Ole Miss had struggles midweek. The parity in college baseball is a real thing now.
Oh, absolutely. And look, just because you lose a midweek game does not mean your season is lost. But when it becomes a trend, a habit, and your midweek schedule or your midweek losses pile up, that leads to a broader point of what is the issue with the program at that time. Is it pitching? Is it not being able to put guys away? Is it too many walks? Is it not having a very, very strong stop of the running game? Those things are all compounded in midweek games as well.
He's Sean Teague, former LSU Tiger pitcher and pitching coach in college for a number of years, led Tulane to a super regional his one season down there in New Orleans a bunch of years ago. Talk to me about the lefty thing, because LSU did a really good job of downplaying the lefty thing, and to be expected. I mean, if you don't have lefties, you're not going to sit there and harp on not having lefties all year, so you're going to try to downplay it. But from a pitching coach perspective, a guy who's done it at different levels of college, why was that important? And why do you not buy into the explanation of, well, this guy's got a different breaking ball versus this guy, and so therefore it's like a lefty?
Yeah, and look, that's why I mentioned earlier when you asked about some of the pitching issues, the changeup. So if you are a right-handed dominant staff, that changeup pitch is not necessarily an equalizer versus a left-handed hitter, but it does in fact help you as a right-handed pitcher to a left-handed hitter. Changeup fades down and away. Breaking ball usually breaks down and into a lefty, and that's where a lefty's hot zone usually is down and in their zone. So that changeup from a right to a left does help even the playing field to a degree, particularly if you don't have left-handed arms in the bullpen. But it can't be overstated. If you look at the 2 best pitched games in Omaha this year so far, Drew Parrish, Florida State, and then Tommy Henry with Michigan last night, 2 shutouts, both left-handed starters that were very, very dominant. So it can't be underplayed, the amount of the necessity of having a left-handed pitcher on staff.
And oh, by the way, it's actually incredible how well LSU did offensively against lefties this year. Not that they were great, but the fact that they hung in there. Keep in mind, LSU didn't have a lefty on their staff, which meant that in inter-squad games and practice, they weren't able to see live left-handed pitching. They didn't have a left-handed coach, which meant in batting practice, they couldn't see left-handed. It actually got to the point where one time this year, at least once that I'm aware of, Dan Canaveri, former LSU assistant coach, who's got like a torn knee, a bad hip, he's 60, and they brought him in, and he shortened up the L screen in the cage in the indoor, and he actually threw some batting practice one time. I mean, that's how desperate they were for lefties. So the fact that they could even handle lefties at all was incredible, because they just flat out never even saw a practice against lefties until it's game time and I'm in the box against a guy throwing 90. I mean, absolutely. Wow. He's Sean Teague. I'm Ronnie Rance. Sports Church presented by LeBears Casino. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little more about the College World Series and what's going on, who he thinks is going to win it, and where the LSU goes from here. Plus, Jacques Doucet will join us in the second part of Sports Church. We'll talk to him about the Pelicans, LSU hoops, and Red Rock and Blue, which is right around the corner. Don't go anywhere.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call AccuTemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
When you come to Relief Windows, your experience starts here.
Or here.
Then we come to your home.
We measure twice.
And then we bring custom windows to your home.
We remove your old windows. Install your new windows.
Clean our mess.
And we make sure you're completely satisfied.
And all of this before you pay a dime. And at Relief Windows, our #1 product is customer satisfaction.
Relief Windows.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call Accutemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Welcome back to Sports Shorts, presented by La Berge Casino. Ronnie Rance alongside former LSU Tiger pitcher and college pitching coach Sean Teague. Sean, you spent what? How many years at Georgia Southern as a pitching coach?
4 at Georgia Southern. One at Georgia the year before, then 1 at Tulane.
And then 1 at Tulane. And Tulane was 2004?
4. Yeah.
And y'all went to Super Regional at Cal State Fullerton, and they won it all.
Yeah, I had a great run. Went to the Ole Miss Regional. Actually, first time Ole Miss had ever hosted a regional. Mike Bianco's first time hosting. And ran through that regional, and then was paired up with Cal State Fullerton, and they and Kurt Suzuki in particular
That's right.
took it to us, and they wound up winning it all.
I remember that year in 2004, Tulane. Y'all set a record for shutouts that year as a staff. You had a young freshman pitcher by the name of Daniel Latham, who was on that staff, who became a great reliever at Tulane, and now he's the pitching coach for Tulane after a great long run at Southeastern.
Yeah, set some records as a reliever at Tulane. You're right, saves, appearances, that sort of thing. Has kind of run the circuit, been an assistant at VMI, been an assistant at Southeastern, has kind of made his way back home as a pitching coach at Tulane.
What's your take on him? I know from my perspective, doing a couple games a year over the years that he has been an assistant coach at Southeastern mostly. I did a couple Tulane games this year on TV. I'm impressed by him.
Yeah, I am too. Look, I don't know what his system is, so to speak, but I do know he's learned from some pretty good coaches, Rick Jones being one in particular when Coach Jones was down at Tulane. He's had some good coaches along the way, so I don't know what his system is, but I know his guys have gotten better. And this year, Tulane's ERA improved by a run and a half, so it has improved, and some of his individual pitchers have improved as well.
Yeah, and Tulane has not made a regional the last 3 years. This was only his first year as the pitching coach, so they kind of need to get after it a little bit next year. Next year might be a little make or break, if you will, for their head coach. You were at Georgia Southern, had a number of players drafted. Any of them make the big leagues?
Yeah, I had two pitchers drafted. Neither one were drafted out of high school. They were drafted after their junior year. Brian Rogers from Atlanta, and then Dennis Dove from little bitty Ocilla, Georgia. Both were drafted. Both made it to the big leagues for a cup of coffee. One with the Cardinals and one with the Pirates. I had 6 guys drafted in 4 years, and 4 of those guys weren't drafted at all out of high school.
And any Tulane that played in the big leagues that you coached?
Yeah, Brian Bogusevic was a two-way guy for us when I was there in 04. Now, he made it to the big leagues as an outfielder, but Brian was the one guy that I had coached, one-on-one that had made it to the big leagues.
Speaking of the big leagues here in town, and I know you have kept up. Great story. Austin Nola got called to the big leagues, and now he joins his brother Aaron Nola. I think they're only the 3rd or 4th brother combo in the big leagues this year. But, Aaron Nola, obviously, we knew coming out of high school, this guy had a really good chance of pitching in the major leagues one day. He was just special. He had a great arm action and command and poise. Austin Nola, not your traditional middle infielder, right? Slow of foot, great hands, decent hitter. But you feel like, he had to learn another position to get to the major leagues. He went to catcher. Now he's at first. Just talk about in general what it takes to spend 8 years in the minor leagues and never give up. That's incredible.
I mean, it's a grind. I mean, it really is a grind. You have to put in so much effort above and beyond just playing every day. You're talking about taking care of your body in the off season, about getting bigger, stronger, being willing and fluid to move to a different position like Nola just did. So you have to actually do whatever the coaches say and trust the process, trust the fact that you are going to get better and you're going to trust your ability and you will make it there one day. But it's a grind. It's not going to be a day one change.
Austin Nola was drafted by the Marlins and spent a lot of time, many years in their organization, mostly as a middle infielder. And then eventually they moved him to catcher. And I actually did a game, Pensacola Blue Wahoos versus the Jacksonville Suns at the time, which I think are now the Jumbo Shrimp or something. Yeah. And I remember that was the first year, maybe even like month number 2, where he moved to catcher. And I thought at that point, well, that's it, because once you start moving positions, it's low percentage that it's gonna work out. And of course, when you learn how to play catcher, that's a position you need a lot of time and savviness in. But I can't give them enough credit. 29 years old. So think of the sacrifice. You make $0, as a minor league baseball player. People don't realize you're basically making below minimum wage. You make a couple $1,000s a month at best while you're playing. So that means the 6 other months out of the year you're making nothing. You got to go hustle up a job. You got people that are all your friends and are starting their life and starting their careers, and they're kind of passing you by while you're doing lessons in the off season and playing baseball, chasing the dream. And I've always told people, play until they take the jersey off your back, unless you got a better plan, unless you're going to go be a doctor, lawyer, you're taking over dad's company. I mean, there's a direct plan. If it's just go get a sales job, stay playing as long as your wife, girlfriend, or your significant other will allow.
And look, one thing I know you remember Coach Bertman always told us was that, less than 2% of guys that get drafted even make it to the big leagues. So it's not just guys that play professionally. It's guys that even get drafted, less than 2% even make it to the big leagues. So that's where you have to have that trust, that undeniable trust in yourself, of course, and then your coaches and the changes you have to make as you move along.
I got to believe also having his brother playing helped him, helped keep the dream alive, right?
Yeah.
Because one, you got a brother who, could, I don't know any details, but could financially, take care of you while you chase your dream. The other is it gives you something to strive for. It gives you somebody to work out with in this off season. It gives you that, that path and that direction. And I think doing it with somebody, it's easier, right, to work out with a partner than by yourself.
Sure.
Whether, so I think that helped. But man, 8 years in the minor leagues, changing positions, changing organizations, and for him to do what he's done, and I don't care if he plays 5 games in the big leagues or 5 years, just to get there is such an accomplishment. And I'm sure his dad is super, super thrilled, as all of us in Baton Rouge are for him. By the way, the 75th LSU player to make it to the major leagues in program history. 75 Tigers have made it to the major leagues, and I want to say the number is like 64 or 5 since 1984 when Skip Bertman came to town. Now, Paul Mainieri's had a bunch, Smokes had a bunch, but like where LSU baseball is just incredible.
I agree. Yeah, it's although the season was a disappointment, as we talked about earlier, the players they're bringing in, Coach Kane is bringing in, are high value players. They're bringing in the right guys. It's just a matter of developing them and letting them move on afterward.
Now, explain this. You spent a lot of years as a pitching coach. You understand recruiting and how dollars and cents work. Explain to the folks out there why this is such a big deal. There are 4 teams in the College World Series from the SEC, none of them named LSU. One of them is Vanderbilt. They've got a national championship. They're kind of, over the last 15 years, been right there at the top 1, 2, 3 every year for the most part in the conference. They have a tremendous amount of big leaguers. They have a lot of talent, particularly arm talent, over the years. And there's a lot made about the fact that LSU has 11.7 scholarships, like everybody else does in the country that plays baseball, and they have the TOPS program in the state. Mississippi has 11.7 scholarships, but Mississippi State, Southern Miss, Ole Miss, they don't have a TOPS program. Georgia does have a TOPS program. Vanderbilt has endowed scholarships. They have a number of folks over the years that have left endowed scholarships, and they are kind of controlled and earmarked for baseball. So not only do they have the 11.7 athletic scholarships, but they have these specialty scholarships that kind of find their way into baseball recruits' hands.
Sure.
And so, I've heard estimations by by other college coaches that number could be between the 11.7 and the endowed closer to 25 to 30 scholarships. Why is all of the what are those differentiations? How important is that, and why does that work that way?
Well, that's obviously what the NCAA has designated for these teams, and that's what makes it so hard, or for the Division I. That's what makes it so hard as a coach, because you have to be the ultimate salesman as a coach to go up into somebody's living room, LSU for instance, competing against University of Texas, competing against University of Miami, and sell those parents and that player on trusting you to develop their son, to have them be ready to play at Division I level, high level, trusting them that they're going to believe you are going to get to Omaha, and then once they leave, get drafted, they're going to play professionally. But you're competing against 3 or 4 or 5 other top 5 programs in that salesmanship. That's very, very hard to do with different offers.
Right.
And you don't know these offers because no one really shares that. It's not common knowledge generally. But if you're asking somebody, let's just use Tulane, for example. If Tulane's $50,000 a year and you give a player half a scholarship, well, those parents still have to pay $25,000 for that player to go to the university. So that is the ultimate salesmanship in terms of trying to get those parents and that player to trust you, to develop them, and to pay you to take care of their kid to a degree.
You talk about the lack of lefties LSU had. I forget the young man's name. He just finished up his career at Mississippi State, but he was a lefty from Sulphur and was originally coming to LSU on 25% scholarship. At some point, from the time he committed to the time he signed, he wanted to get a little bit more, felt undervalued, was getting more money from elsewhere, and he ended up switching and going to Mississippi State because they were giving him more scholarship.
Yeah.
Coach Ogeron doesn't have to deal with that. Nick Saban doesn't have to deal with that. You either have a full scholarship or no scholarship.
Yeah.
And it's all just simply where do you want to play, where do you fit in. In college baseball, it's all about not only fitting in, but where are the finances, where drafting, signing. I mean, it's and by the way, we got a limited staff.
And in 2012, the Power Fives voted to have these multi-year scholarships. So you can and everybody knows a scholarship is a 1-year renewable, but you don't recruit a kid and say, look, we're bringing you in for a year. I don't know if you're going to get a scholarship the second year or not. These are all 4-year scholarships, but they're 1-year renewable. Now Power Fives have the option to say this is a multi-year scholarship when you're actually offering that individual student athlete.
Before we let you go, College World Series in full effect. We know the story with Mike Martin. I personally am pulling for him his final year as coach. Who do you think, though, wins the College World Series?
Well, Arkansas was one of my final 4. I guess I've got to take them out now.
0-2.
Yeah, so 0-2. The one that I was looking at the most that I thought had a chance to do it, but still in the losers bracket, is Texas Tech. Now, a lot of people are talking about Texas Tech. Tim Tadlock's done a great job there in 7 years. Been to 4 College World Series. I'm pulling for them as the dark horse. But for me, it's Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. One of those 2 teams I think are going to win it all.
Mississippi State's got a little mojo in their lineup. They just kind of find a way. But Vanderbilt is just so loaded. To me, they look like a double-A team out there. And if they play like if they just play status quo, I just can't imagine anybody taking them down twice.
There are not a lot of holes. Hitting 318 as a team. They've got 704 strikeouts league going into the College World Series as a pitching staff. They're pretty dominant overall.
And a program that knows about winning, and they just dominated the SEC tournament and all as well. That Sean, thanks so much, man, for visiting us. Good seeing you.
Yeah, you as
Sean
well.
Teague, former LSU national champion, baseball player, and then, of course, went on to be a great pitching coach at Georgia Southern and Tulane. We'll take a break. When we come back, WAFB Sports' own Jacques Doucet will be here. We'll talk a little Pelicans, a little LSU, and a little Red Rock and Blue. Don't go anywhere.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call Accutemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
When you come to Relief Windows, your experience starts here.
Or here.
Then we come to your home.
We measure twice.
And then we bring custom windows to your home.
We remove your old windows. Install your new windows.
Clean our mess.
And we make sure you're completely satisfied.
And all of this before you pay a dime. And at Relief Windows, our #1 product is customer satisfaction.
Relief Windows.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call Accutemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Shorts, presented by LeBear's Casino in Baton Rouge. A lot of great concerts coming up over at LeBear's. All you got to do is go to Ticketmaster.com, or you can go by the Sundry Store inside LeBear's to buy your tickets. A lot of great country shows coming up. Check it out. Jacques Doucet of WAFB Sports joining us. What color is that? That's like a Dolphins teal, probably.
Is it aqua?
Aqua, yeah, I don't know. It's a very summery look you got going on there.
Very, very bright. Hey, turn that down. Type shirt. So.
Well, thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great to be here. Good to be here with you.
You were probably expecting to be in Omaha this week, so would you have gone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, matter of fact, we're doing our softball tournament in late June. When I planned it in anticipation of going to Omaha.
Sure.
And perhaps being, at worst case scenario, hustling back on Thursday after winning a national title to do a tournament on that weekend. But yeah, anytime we plan the summer, we talk about all the best case scenarios, and certainly when they were preseason number 1, I anticipated there was a strong chance that we'd be there, but we're not. So
this is a strange time for LSU baseball right now. It's probably it has the feel of a Stony Brook, I think. Not so much even 17. I think it's more Stony Brook, because you keep in mind in Stony Brook, LSU went out to UCLA in 2010 and lost, didn't make it to a Super. In 11, they didn't even make postseason. That was Mikey Matuk's last year. So all of a sudden, 12, you got this good team, national seed, you're at home, and then you lose to Stony Brook when everybody had already paid deposits for their flights and everything, expecting to be in the World Series once they saw matched up with Stony Brook coming out of that Miami regional. So the disappointment that you felt was palpable after the 2012 loss, because it was 3 years in a row you hadn't been to Omaha.
Yeah.
You just lost to who? Stony Brook. They took a victory lap in your park. The whole nine. It was a ooh. I get that feeling this year too, because again you went out to Oregon State and that wasn't pretty last year, and then this year you're at home and you got it all set up for you, and you're playing Florida State, who barely got into the tournament, and then all of a sudden you lose, and another you didn't get to Omaha with ooh, and now you're losing a lot. I mean, you look around, you see all the good players that are leaving you. So then you got some offensive questions for next year, and it's just it's not the feeling that you had a year ago where it was, boy, next year.
Right.
Now it's kind of like next year, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard Kendall Rogers on a radio show talking about next year. Who knows who's forgotten more baseball than we'll ever know. But he said, yeah, I see LSU being number 2, number 3 in the country next year to start. And I was like, I don't know about that. I mean, the pitching looks like it could be very strong with Cole Henry. And
on paper.
On paper,
right.
Yeah. But you don't want to be February 15th season opener and Cole Henry leaves after 2 innings saying his
right.
So that's a big question mark. Hopefully he's not going to pitch this summer. He'll be fine in the fall ball and do whatever. But as far as your offensive weapons that are departing and your Josh Smith and help me out here. Who else?
Well,
you're losing a lot of.
You're losing Watson and Duplantis, obviously.
Right.
As well.
Yeah, the all-time leader.
You're losing your second baseman. You're losing your third baseman. So your core returning next year, which on paper again looks okay. If you believe Garza is the Garza of April 15th on.
Yeah, and Cabrera bounces back.
And if you believe that Cabrera is not going to be this year Cabrera, 280 Cabrera, that he's going to be 315 Cabrera combined with 15 homers, then you're okay. And also if you believe that Beloso won't have a sophomore setback or that he'll continue the trajectory, because, he did some nice things as a freshman, hit around 280 with double-digit homers. That's rarefied air. So if he can hit 295 with 13 homers, you'll take that, right? So that's your core middle of your lineup is Beloso, Garza, and Cabrera. Not bad, but you got to go find 6 other pieces around that.
Yeah, and talking about some of the things you mentioned, LSU has been a victim of great storylines. On the outside, if you were looking in and not an LSU fan, a casual fan, you would say, oh, Stony Brook, what an awesome story that they're going to Omaha. Now, when they got there, they got bashed in 2 games and went home. Now, Coastal Carolina, what is a Chanticleer?
Right.
They
Still
go.
Don't know. It's like a rooster of some kind.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's French for something like that. So
French for rooster.
French for rooster. So they go and they win the national title, and somebody on Twitter told me the other day, Paul Mainieri loses to these no-name teams in home super regionals. And I said, yeah, Stony Brook was tough because they went to Omaha and they didn't do well. But, Coastal Carolina, they won the national title. So you kind of
right.
And that was like a pebble bouncing off an 18-wheeler with this guy.
Right.
He was like, BS, there's no business losing to Coastal Carolina at home, and was angry about that. And so this year it's Mike Martin, who's the big story, who, they won their first game in Omaha. They lost their second. We'll see what happens there. But, it's funny about expectations, and I brought it up a few times, like men's basketball this year, LSU, they go to the Sweet 16, and everyone's thrilled, cutting backflips. And baseball, in essence, made the Sweet 16 for the 8th time in 12 years, which is what a super regional is. And people, shrug and say, so what? You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to go to Omaha. Now, granted, in baseball, you get to host an Alec Boxer regional where you don't get to do that in basketball. But with the preseason expectations, with what they retained from the recruiting class, Cabrera was supposed to just explode this year. He did, pretty well, but had some bad stretches, and like you said, batted only 280. So it's a disappointing, and I know it had to be a tough year for Coach Mainieri with his father passing away and other things that were going on. They just never really. They kind of hit their stride late. I think they won 8 of 11, and they did well at the SEC tournament, which they always do. But just tough. Those 2 games, those 2 super regional games, so much. Jim Mora coulda, shoulda, woulda in those 2 games,
coulda, shoulda, yeah.
and you go home. So that's tough.
LSU under Paul Mainieri 5-3 in super regionals, 3-3 in their last 6 super regionals. Of course, all of them at home, and that's the problem. Is that 3-3 since 2012 in super regionals, when this is a place where you would feel like you should win 80% of your super regionals. So you go 4-1, 8-2 over a 10-year super regional stretch at home, okay, but they're 5-3, and to get to that 10, they got 2 more to go. Where will they be if they end up at 5-5 in super regionals or 6-4 in super regionals at home? That's a disappointment, and it seems to me, and it's no indictment of the fans or anything. But the new box doesn't have the intimidation factor of the old box. I mean, it just doesn't.
I've talked to numerous.
The same. The opponent doesn't come in and wilt like they used to.
No, I've talked to numerous people. The new box is spectacular. It's beautiful. It's the best thing you could have built, but it doesn't compare to the old box in terms of the noise concentration of 8,000 people were just basically right on top of you, and you know, obviously the heat and humidity, that's always a factor, but it just seemed like back then when teams would go in there, the heat would kill them, the fans would kill them, and then they'd wilt.
Well, the dugouts, you got to keep in mind, the dugouts at the old box were kind of below a field level because it was built up on a crown, you know, the infield. So, you know, imagine a team from, you know, West Coast having to be in that third base dugout kind of, you know, almost below eye level of the field, and, you know, it just feels hotter, right? There's not the breeze coming through. It wasn't as open, I guess. But, yeah, and I've said this many times, I feel like the old box, it was so uncomfortable for the fans that they were a little grumpy. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you're sitting on a metal bleacher, you got some stranger's thigh touching your thigh, and you're sweating on each other. There's no nice concessions and sushi or any options. You know, we got cookie cakes now. We got the ice cream pebbles, and I mean, you know, we got Kona ice. We got all these nice, wonderful things. There's a beautiful breeze underneath, shade everywhere, sweets with liquor. I mean, it's just too nice. You know, the old box, you were a little angry because it's like, you know, it's so hot, and I got this stranger's leg touching mine. I mean, it made you be grumpy to the other team.
I was joking with Charles Hannegriff one time. He said it was an animal refuge. You know, they had cats in there, they had squirrels, they had, you know, all these animals and stuff.
And
the
birds
there.
living up in the ceiling.
The birds and the press box was just nothing.
Yeah, it was no press box.
It was just, and it was open air. So those February games when it was cold, you just freeze up there and. So, but
Hawthorne loved it. Jim loved it.
I'll never forget the last Super Regional, though, at the old box when they played UC Irvine, and LSU lost the first game, and UC Irvine had the second game in their back pocket, and all of a sudden this crazy stuff starts happening, and Sean Ochinko with like a high chopper over the third baseman's head, and they come back and they somehow win, and then on Monday night they just bash UC Irvine 21-7. It was those kind of things that would happen there.
He's Jacques Doucet of WFB. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk some Pelicans and Red Rock and Blue next on Sports Shorts.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call AccuTemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
When you come to Relief Windows, your experience starts here.
Or here.
Then we come to your home.
We measure twice.
And then we bring custom windows to your home.
We remove your old windows. Install your new windows.
Clean our mess.
And we make sure you're completely satisfied.
And all of this before you pay a dime. And at Relief Windows, our #1 product is customer satisfaction.
Relief Windows.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call AccuTemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Shorts. Ronnie Rance alongside Jacques Doucet of WAFB joining us. Big week in NBA talk. And what a difference a ping pong ball can make, because in my mind, Pelicans basketball was dead prior to that ping pong ball popping up first pick, and we now know that Zion Williamson is coming to New Orleans. With Anthony Davis saying, the second superstar in a row, saying, I'm out, I don't want to be here, trade me, blah, 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 forcing your hand, the season tanking, the future looking like it's tanking, all of a sudden, what direction are they going to go? They're going to be bad. Nobody wants to come here. Nobody's going to go to the games. One ping pong ball, Zion Williamson changes the scope and the arc of the franchise. You sell a bunch of season tickets. Now it makes it easier to recruit others to come. You end up getting a trade done with the Lakers, which I wasn't happy with who they had to send him to because that's where he wanted to go. But you end up with 3 first-round picks, 3 players. I mean, now all of a sudden the future's bright and there's some juice and energy behind, what the Pelicans are doing.
Yeah, it's taken a big turn. I followed the New Orleans Hornets since they got there. First game was in 2002 on Halloween, I believe, and we've had several of these divorces, and divorces, you can try to make them amicable, but they're not. The first one was Baron Davis and Jamal Mashburn. Feel like we're in prison here, hate this place. Baron Davis is limping around. Oh, I'm hurt. Second he gets to Golden State, he's bouncing off the floor and dunking and everything. Chris Paul was a model citizen, a fantastic player, did everything he was supposed to do. Exciting teams, that team that made it to the second round and lost to the Spurs in 7 games, best team they've ever had by far. He wants to leave and becomes a villain. Anthony Davis just really, I think, the agent speaking in his ear really messed this up for him. The That's All Folks T-shirt and all the things he did, and towards the end, everyone loved him, and now that changes. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the trade, getting 3 first-round draft picks, that's a lot of inventory. Now, if the Lakers and Mr. Davis and LeBron start winning 50 games a year, then obviously you're not picking in the top 5, you're picking later. But to have the first and number 4 pick this year, if they're going to sell off that number 4 pick for a veteran player like most people think, and the players are getting in return are young and promising, I think Ingram's averaged 18 points a game or something like that last year, so he obviously is putting up numbers, can help. So, yeah, I think a lot of people are excited. Similar to LSU basketball, it was kind of the Titanic not too long ago. Everyone was leaving. The coach wasn't here. Okay, now the coach is back. A lot of players coming back. So both teams, I felt like kind of had some new energy, so to speak. And Zion will sell tickets. He'll sell jerseys. It's just a matter of how quickly they can put together a winner in 2 or 3 years here.
The situation with Zion, we don't know. As we're taping the show, the draft is coming up. We don't know if they're going to maybe package something and trade more to get more picks or what they end up doing. So we're obviously taping this show prior to the draft. But Zion, to me, there hasn't been this much buzz about a first pick overall in the draft probably
since LeBron,
right?
That's what I read. I don't follow this stuff all that closely, but reading up, he's the most highly heralded since, whenever that was, 2001, 2?
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's funny. I was at, covering LSU in Washington, D.C. at the Sweet 16, and after LSU lost, they're walking off the floor. Duke was playing that same night and walking by, and that was my first, in-person glance of Zion Williamson as he was running out onto the floor there with Duke, and so look forward to covering that. It's just so hard for the Pelicans to kind of get their footing. You're tipping off, like I said, in late October. We are so football-driven here, cover the games and everything, but really it's not until February or March that people really can start paying attention in earnest there with that.
The thing about Zion, the only concern I have about him, I feel like the tennis shoes will get handled, right? He'll have the best shoes unknown to man on this planet. But my concern with Zion is his weight, right?
Yeah.
As a guy who has a little bit of an eating problem myself, and has battled that, and a guy who was a fan of Charles Barkley, the round mound of rebound, who really was thin compared to Zion. We look back at the old 80s.
Short shorts, Barkley.
Yeah.
He wasn't that big.
Yeah, he wasn't that big, but it was the time and the era where the basketball players weren't very muscular per se. They were more skinny. And then he did gain some weight, obviously, the older he got in the pros. But that would be my concern is hopefully Zion Williamson doesn't eat himself out of basketball too quickly, or that the weight doesn't. I mean, you get to New Orleans, don't you fall in love with a couple restaurants, you can put it on. I mean, supposedly went to Commander's Palace, he got a bunch of chicken tenders. Zion, we need to do better than that, big guy. I mean, let's expand the palate. Try the turtle soup. You don't have to eat it. Just get one bite. I mean, try it. But that would be my concern with him, and that's the only concern I have is he's only 19 years old. At 24, are we going to keep going like this with the weight, or are we going to go like that?
Right. Well, I mean, if you're a professional athlete and you want to be the best at what you can do, this is your job. Your body you're supposed to be in shape. Whether you're a running back in the NFL, Eddie Lacy, or Rohan, my good friend, when he was at LSU playing, struggling with that. Nick Saban would get so mad at Rohan, he'd be like, I don't understand what the problem is. I step on the scale every day. If I weigh more than I did the day before, I don't eat as much that day. What's the big deal? Why can't he lose weight? So he'd go home and eat all that Jamaican food or whatever, come back and be a little heavy. So, but hopefully Zion, it stays away from the beignets and the mixed drinks that have a lot of calories.
Yeah, the creme brulee will get you, Zion, and that flaming bananas Foster. Oof. Speaking of Rohan Davey, will he be participating this year in the Red, Rock, and Blue?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's been a fixture. This is the 10th year we're doing the celebrity game, incredibly, and I think he's been there almost every year.
Well, tell us a little bit about Red, Rock, and Blue. It's the 10th annual celebrity softball game, and of course, that is your team, which of you and Matt Moscone have been going at it as captains for many, many years. Tell us about a couple of the guys that come see.
Well, Darius Geis is probably our biggest headliner, and we've got just basically, I think we have almost 50 commitments to the game. I mean, as you can see here, Christian Lockacher, Todd Walker, your good friend, Justin Vincent, Mike Fontenot, Micah Gibbs, Danny Etling, and
Chris Reed. You got a newbie.
Chris Reed and Brant Broussard, straight off the field and on the Team Red. So people, as usual, are telling me that Moscone's team is loaded and is going to kill us. Austin Bain, Darren Clark, Nick Brosette coming in. There's guys, Jacob Hester, always a big hit. Chad Jones, Benny Logan from the NFL. Jason Williams.
That is not the Yankees' Paul O'Neill, just to clarify.
That is right.
Okay.
Nobody can accuse me of false advertisement. Okay. It's the guy's name.
Is truly. I will say this: when we looked at Moscone's roster, I saw a couple names. I saw Clark from Southern, played in the big leagues. You had Jason Williams on there. You had Ryan Patterson, who was a great hitter at LSU. They got 3 or 4 dudes that can really get it.
They do. I am also banking on defense and Brant Broussard and Chris Reed that they were playing 2 weeks ago right. And can catch a ground ball in softball too.
Brant's going to be playing short, right? Put Todd over at second, let Brant play short.
Put Chris at
third.
Or third, somewhere
put him at third.
To field ground balls.
I would be worried about Todd. Todd, was a pretty boy when he played at LSU. Didn't always like to stick the chin in there to field it. Now that he's got that TV face, he's probably going to get a lot of Olay. He'll hit for you.
Still got great hair.
Don't anticipate him fielding a hot shot at second. Just giving you a heads up. You might want to go somebody else there.
What are those Blair Barbier efforts one year you were out there and you were very critical. Like after 2 or 3 innings. What's Blair doing out here? We've got some weak swings going on. He's not really hustling on the corner, So, but yeah, we got tickets on sale for that right now at redrockandblue.com. There's a VIP option where you can be in the suite or on a loft there, and they've got
and this is going to be at the LSU softball field.
Yeah, where LSU plays softball. LSU Tiger Park. We've got complimentary beer and wine for the VIP and food up there, and then there'll be beer and wine sold to everyone as well. Maybe some daiquiris also. Great time. All the money goes to Louisiana military men and women charities. It's a win-win for everybody. It's right after the 4th of July, so get out of town, go to the beach, and then come back in and be part of this.
Friday, July the 12th, and if you want tickets to Red, Rock, and Blue 1, you get them in advance, or do you just pay at the gate?
You can pay at the gate, but it's an advantage to buy in advance. The gold chair back, that's reserved seating, so get your spot. The VIP is very limited. I think there's a total of maybe 70 VIP. The general admission, if you buy them in advance, only $5. Day of, general admission, $10. So.
And what's the website?
redrockandblue.com. Spell it out.
Yeah, redrockandblue.com. The 10th annual. The first one started off at Oak Villa.
Yeah.
And has now ended up over at Tiger Park. It's the second time it's at Tiger Park, which means a lot more homers. But you are putting a cap, right, on the home runs?
Well, we're using something Ronnie called an Incrediball.
Okay.
It's a softer ball that doesn't travel quite as far home runs will still be prevalent, but it won't be so ridiculous.
Okay.
And I think we do a cap 3 home runs an inning or something like that to kind of
So
level
still
that.
a glove. It's not like cabbage ball. It's a
Oh,
a
no,
glove.
no, no, no. Yeah, yeah.
It just doesn't travel. as
It's
far.
the same size, basically. If it bounces, it takes a big hop. It's
Okay.
kind of rubbery, but it still
All right.
travels. And
Very cool. We're looking forward to it. That is Friday, July 12th, redrockandblue.com. And
we got our softball tournament, too, real quick.
Yeah.
Anybody out there wants to enter a team this Friday, June 21st, 8 p.m., redrockandblue.com, slow pitch softball tournament. Anybody can enter a team. 3-game guarantee. We have 90, 100 teams that are coming
where
now.
is that going to be?
Oak Villa.
Okay.
June 28th through the 30th. So not this weekend, but next.
June 28th through 30th. Got to get your registration in before the 21st. That's going to be a lot of fun. Of the celebrities that are coming for Red Rock and Blue this year, a couple of the bigger names, and any last minute additions?
My friend Judd Lorman just texted me as I was sitting down here. For those of you who don't know Judd, he's from Lafayette, and he is on a big part of that hit show on CBS, SEAL Team.
Yep.
He's got the beard, Blackburn.
Played last year, pulled a hammy.
Did he?
I think he pulled a hammy in a game last year.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
you might be right.
Yeah.
And it obviously had a hydration problem. He was walking around with a gallon of water everywhere.
Yeah, there you go.
But no, here's the deal. You can check out all the names at redrockandblue.com. Typically, when we put this out, Ronnie, there's always somebody out there who, in the beginning, when I text them, didn't answer, and then they see the flyer and see all the people coming. Oh, I want to be part of that now.
Danny
So,
Etling's coming. I saw you got John Brady on there.
yeah.
Who are you most looking forward to seeing?
Oh, well, certainly Miss USA, Holly Conway, is going to
Nice.
be there. I saw that she did a duet with Roger Cador at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Holly Conway was 2018 Miss Louisiana. She gives up her crown, I think, this week or last week.
Yeah.
She went to Northwestern State, but her dad is Hollis Conway, the great high jumper that set the USA record for high jumping. He's in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, and she sang the national anthem last week at the Hall of Fame event in Natchitoches.
I looked for that on iTunes, the duet. I couldn't find it. Her and Cador.
her and Cador sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Jock, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. RedRockandBlue.com. Check it out. Thanks to Sean Teague, former LSU and college baseball pitching coach, for joining us in the first half hour.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call AccuTemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
When you come to Relief Windows, your experience starts here.
Or here.
Then we come to your home.
We measure twice.
And then we bring custom windows to your home.
We remove your old windows. Install your new windows.
Clean our mess.
And we make sure you're completely satisfied.
And all of this before you pay a dime. And at Relief Windows, our #1 product is customer satisfaction.
Relief Windows.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call AccuTemp and schedule your maintenance check today.